coach joins us now. Great to be visiting with you yet again, and congrats on getting this bill pushed out to now we actually get to read through it and see where we're headed in possible change for the NCAA and how we're looking at name, image, likeness.
Well, we're not trying to invent the wheel here. All we're trying to do is, if you read the bill, it's called the PASS Act, and we've done our due diligence. My goodness, it's taken a year to get this done, and we've gotten a lot of help from coaches, administrators, commissioners, NCAA, collectives, parents, and it's the best we could come up with. We might end up making a few more changes, but right now we feel like we've got 4 or 5 basic rules that we want to send to the floor to see if we can make it a law where every state has to go by the same basic rules. And of course, you're going to have a lot of Democrats up here that want to unionize every player and let them be individual contractors. And of course, if they do that, I mean, we're going to lose college sports as we know it anyway. But we're trying to put some sense of reality and get the money. You know, again, I'm all for players making money. The Supreme Court said they can make money off their name, image, and likeness. I think it's great. That's fine. But that ruling wasn't put in so players could bid themselves and be recruited with money. It was just it's getting totally out of control.
Take us through, Senator, the highlights of this, if you will. Senator Tommy Tuberville with us. Why does this bipartisan NIL bill, why does it work for the future of college athletics, and specifically at the very top where we're discussing all the money and the free-for-all that we've seen?
Well, again, you know, these are basic rules. The NCAA is going to have to come in and add to this or take away. But the main thing is we want all 50 states going by the same rules. Now, you got states like California that they're a bunch of rogues anyway, and they just want to do what they want to do, and that's fine. If they don't want to go by this, hey, start your own league. But what we want to do is make sure that we get back to education, and it's about the student athlete. It's not about money. Now, again, I'm all for athletes making money, but if we don't watch what we're doing, we're going to end up ruining and taking out in higher education, Olympic sports and women's sports, because they have to have funding. And if you start putting money in all the football players and basketball players, and you don't pay attention to the other sports, they're going to be non-funded, and you got to have money to run these sports. So that's one of the main ideas that we got from the administrators, a lot of coaches, that it has to be, the money has to be moved around. But again, it's we didn't invent the wheel. This is not perfect. We're just trying to get some parameters where we can get medical attention after graduation, where athletes can get some kind of medical attention paid for, whether it's cognitive or orthopedic care after they've graduated. And there's small things like that we want to make sure a lot of the money is going to go in that direction, because a lot of these young men and women have problems after they leave college, and we'll make sure that that's taken care of. The transfer portal, I think there's some good things to it, but we want to go back to the old rule. If you read it, if you transfer, except for a few exceptions, if you want to transfer, I'm fine with that. But you've got to have some kind of penalty to it, because you've made a contract with a university that you're coming there to play for that school. Now, if you transfer, you have to sit out a year. Now, there's going to be some exceptions if coaches leave, health reasons. You always have to have some exceptions. But this transfer portal, where they just get up and move and take more money going to another school, that's not what education's about. And again, these things are coming from the coaches and administrators and players and families. The commissioner, this is coming from these people. This is not coming from me, ex-coach Tommy Tuberville. This is coming from the people that are going through these things right now, understanding that we have got to do something, and these are the best things that we can do to make this work.
Well, why was the transfer portal piece of this that's included in that you just talked about, Senator? Why was that important in this bill to curb the ability for players to transfer without penalty?
Well, because first of all, what are you teaching in athletics? And again, this is not coming from me. This is coming from some players, some coaches, parents. They want some stability. They want an opportunity for schools to be able to build teams, whether it's a hockey team, whether it's a basketball team, whether it's a volleyball team. And if you come in and you have mass transfers every year, you're not going to have the ability to do that. Also, if you come in and transfer, if you go back and look at the stats, if a young man or woman transfers at a university, the opportunity for them to end up and finish with a degree is minimal. Because when you transfer, you lose almost every hour that you've earned at that other school. And so you're having to add on a year or two of staying at that university to get that degree. We wanted to stay as close to the education part as we possibly could. Now, again, if you want to transfer because a coach left or some other reason that was necessary, there's going to be exceptions. But just to get up and say, listen, I can go to this other school and I can make $50,000 more, that's fine. If that school wants to pay you that, that's good. But you're going to have to sit out a year. I think there has to be some repercussions. We cannot be teaching these young men and women to quit because of money. The whole reason that they're going to a higher education is for a degree. If you want to go make money, then probably the pro route is the best for you.
Senator Tommy Tuberville with us on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network. Would this bill ensure that athletes are not deemed employees? That has certainly been discussed throughout this entire process, Coach. And will this bill also prevent revenue sharing and the possibility of unionization, which has also been a hot topic?
Yeah, we don't need unionization in college athletics. We don't need it. We don't need individual contractors. We need people to come to school to go for an education. If they can make money off their name and image, I'm all for that. And I think it's great. I think there's a possibility for some revenue sharing in this. I'm for every player making money. I'm from every player that's at some of these big schools that are making the school $40, $50 million in television money. I think there should be a certain percentage of that. They need to sit down and do that, but that doesn't need to come as a federal law. Federal law, we need to stand up and say, okay, all schools are going to do the same thing about 4 or 5 different things. I think the NCAA and the university should step in and say, okay, we're going to give 20% or 10% or 30% to the athletes, but not just the quarterback and the running back and the wide receiver, everybody, first, second, third team that's on the team that's there to play for that university. Also the same thing for a volleyball player or a women's softball player. They should get some of the revenue, but that needs to be run through the educational system, the university. The more these universities take care of the athletes, at the end of the day, they're going to have a lot better opportunity to recruit young men and women from high schools to come to their university.
You've spent a lot of time on this, as we have certainly detailed over the course of the last year or so. The NCAA certainly took a step back from this. Charlie Baker's now the president. In the rules, NCAA rules should be able to enforce this. They didn't want to at the time. Will they be able to enforce federal law? And is the NCAA ready to actually regulate what you're putting forward if this bill passes?
Well, that's a good point. First of all, we got a long way to go on this. It's got to go through the Senate. And it's got to pass with 60 votes. Then it's got to go through the House. It's got to pass by a majority. Then it has to go to the White House and be signed by the president. That's how laws are made and put together. It's going to be a chore to get that done because we have a lot of Democrats that want to unionize these kids. They want to take advantage of them. They want to use them as pawns. Hopefully we can stay away from that. Charlie Baker and I've had a good conversations with him. I think he's going to be good for the NCAA. I think he's got fresh ideas. If this does go through, it will give them an opportunity, to build upon that. But you got to remember, this is not a rule. If we pass this through the House, Senate, and the White House, it's not a rule. It is a federal law, and they will all go by this. Every state, and that's what we're trying to create here. You've got some rogue states that wants to do their own thing. And if we get into that, you're not going to have fair competition across this country. And how are you going to have a national champion if you've got some people, having, say, 50 baseball scholarships and some having 10? You can't do that. I mean, and that's just, I'm just throwing that out there. That's not in this bill. I just want to let people know we're trying to make fairness out of this. And it's hard to do that when you got so many parameters. Take it from somebody that did it for 35, 40 years. I know how hard this is. And so we wanted to stay out of the weeds on this and just give basic things to where the NCAA can build off this, and Charlie Baker and all of his group, it can work with the coaches and administrators and the commissioners to make this work. This is going to be hard to get done. This is just the start of the fight. I mean, the fight is just now starting. So we'll see how far along we get with this.
How much consideration was given to student athletes in this? And in trying to create a system that's fair, it's impossible to go 100% athlete side, 100% administration side. But when considering this bill, how much consideration was given to the student athlete?
Well, the first thing we looked at, Joe Manchin and I and our staffs, we looked at education and student athlete first. I could care less about the coaches or the universities or the athletic departments or the NCAA. This is about our young people. The number one commodity in our country is not gold and silver or gas and oil. It's our young people. And if we don't understand that, we're not going to make it as a country. That's how this country has been able to make it 247 years, is because we educated our young people on moral values, hard work and effort, and learning to work with other people. That's what sports gives you. That's what our military gives us. And that's the only two institutions left. If we tear these two down, our country won't be the same in the future. So we started with the student athletes and the education part. And again, we put everybody else aside and try to think about them first in every decision that we made.
Senator Tommy Tuberville has been our guest, in the new NIL legislation that he and Senator Joe Manchin have drafted in a bipartisan bill that's now headed through this process. Coach, thank you so much for yet again joining us and trying to get through the weeds of this. And again, I know this has been a long process. Hopefully we can continue to dissect it with you moving forward.
Well, y'all know how hard this is, so it's going to be very, very difficult. It's like putting a round peg in a square hole. It's going to be tough, but we're trying, and we're going to give it all we've got, and we're going to have a lot of help from a lot of people, and people are going to have to give and take to make this work. But hey, thanks for having me on, and hopefully we can talk again soon.
Yeah, appreciate it. We'll catch up soon.
Thank you.
Senator Tommy Tuberville.